welcome back to another episode of the IGNITEU New York podcast powered by NYSTEC. I'm your host, Shay Brown, and today we have an exciting episode about AI in the workforce. Our guest today is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Hutchinson. He is an expert in change management and advanced technologies, and today we're going to focus that energy on AI. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. You want to give us a little intro background about yourself?
Sure. I have a somewhat unorthodox background compared to the average person to be on the street, I guess. So I grew up around Chicago. I went to West Point, and that's what first made me fall in love with upstate New York, although I didn't think I would ever get to come back here. I served overseas in the infantry and then in special forces pretty early on. I switched over to special forces. I did 7 combat deployments. And over the course of that, you saw how important it was to iterate and to actually adapt to your opponent. And so when I was towards the tail end of the combat portion of it, I was a technology enthusiast. I was working for the commanding general of my organization, and some data scientists came in with a proposal for him. But in his words, they were speaking Dolphin. He didn't understand what they were talking about. But as a technology enthusiast, I understood what supervised machine learning was. So I translated for them. And he said, okay, good. Now you're the project officer. So that's what launched me into the world of AI. So I founded what's now called the United States Army Special Operations Command Artificial Intelligence Division. I did a lot of experimentation efforts, hired a team. Now they are all built out. They run on their own. I retired from the Army about a year ago, but I've remained an advanced technology enthusiast right now, including quantum. So I try to stay plugged into all that.
Including quantum. That's really fun. Now, tell me if this is true or not. But what I hear is that the more you know about quantum, the less you know about quantum.
So quantum is a lot of fun because it really drives you right into the realm of sci-fi. As you learn more, you start thinking like, all these things that I thought were impossible might actually be possible. They might be real. We might just not be able to perceive it with our limited, 5 human senses. So it's very interesting. But kind of like AI and every other technological revolution we've had since the steam engine, there's a lot of people who think that it's going to completely upend our entire society. Not the case. We're not there. But it is very, very interesting. And it will have a huge impact on us economically and how we live, just not yet.
Not yet, but it's knocking on our door.
It is.
Around the corner.
It's advanced much faster than I thought it would. So if you had talked to me in 2015 about quantum, I would have rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, you're one of them. But we've advanced so fast. I love that RPI has the only quantum computer on a college campus. They are doing a great job leveraging it with the students. There's still so much more we could do. But on top of that, there's a lot of opportunities for quantum information systems and how we could protect our communications, how we could bridge past 5G into 6G telecommunications and all that. There's just a few hurdles we have to overcome, and those might take us another 10 years or so, maybe even 20 years. But I've been pleasantly surprised at how fast we've advanced on other fronts, so maybe it'll be faster than that.
So we had a little fun conversation about quantum, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we continue to talk here. But AI in the workforce right now, can you give us an overview of what that is looking like in terms of impact?
Sure. So, the main way it's had impact is just gaining efficiencies. So the majority of businesses or individuals, regardless of whether or not their company tells them to use a platform or not, they'll find tools and they will layer them on top of their existing processes so they can gain some efficiencies. And that's inherently still a good thing for business. It's good to be more efficient, but it's not leveraging the full potential of the maturity of AI that we have now. Because until you retool processes around what it can do, it's not going to deliver its full potential. It's just helping you get a little bit better at what you already do. Or if you have bad processes, it's going to make you faster at being bad.
So when you say retool the processes around AI, can you give us an example of what you mean by that?
Yeah, so most people, when they're looking at AI, they'll use an AI tool like a large language model, like a chat GPT or something like that, to help them draft an email, draft a white paper, come up with an outline for a presentation, all good things. But honestly, when I founded the AI division at Army Special Operations Command, and we would have directors come in and ask us to be anthropologists and look at their processes, stuff like that. Most of the time when they were asking for AI, which at the time, the best we could really do reliably was supervised machine learning. So it's a precursor to what we have now. What they were really looking for is what we'd call robotic process automation. And we've been capable of doing that for a very long time, long before the chat GPTs of the world. So most businesses could probably benefit from not so much needing a large language model to help them formulate things as take the processes they have and automate them. Now, the next level is if you weren't already burdened with all these processes that you've had forever, could you imagine a world where you started from scratch and you built around these tools? It's like one thing that I would always ask myself when I was in the Army, like, if I did not inherit the military I did, would I build it the same way? And the answer was unequivocally no. Our military was not built for the fight we had from 2001 to 2021. It was built for a totally different type of fight. And even though it's kind of aligned with the kind of fight that we would see in a Russia-Ukraine thing, it's still not optimized for what we're capable of doing. And it's super expensive. And it doesn't have to be that expensive, but we inherited all this stuff. So the challenge for the most transformative companies or for the startups is rethink your process and build it around what this can do for you, and then bolt human ingenuity onto it.
Now, when someone would hear something like that, like someone listening in to our conversation right now, they might think, oh my gosh, that sounds like I'm going to be replaced. How would you assuage their concern?
Oh, absolutely. So I dealt with this. I was in a large organization. 75% of the employees were civilians, most of them retired military. And they were doing just fine, but they still wanted their jobs. And so it's a natural concern oh, well, AI is going to come replace me. AI is still not even remotely capable of replacing human judgment and ingenuity and decision-making. Now, it can be a great assist. It can be a great starting point. It can help you get past mental blocks on a lot of different problems you might be trying to solve. And it can help inform you as you navigate the path of those problems, but it is not a replacement for human judgment, and it won't be anytime soon. I can't say it never will, because you can never say never, but it won't be anytime soon. And at the end of the day, unless you think this is going to be a Terminator 2 Judgment Day kind of scenario, which my friends have been saying to me for years, oh, you're building Skynet. No, absolutely not. We aren't remotely capable of that. And I don't think that that's going to be a thing. If we are going to have an economy that humans participate in, then it's all about the humans. And that's actually a really big lesson for leaders is the human dimension cannot be replaced. And you as a leader cannot overlook the human dimension. So if you want to assuage people of fears that they're being replaced, no, at the end of the day, we're all in the people business. Now, it's easy to say in the Army, we're the people business. Because, really you are. But even if you're in the S&P 500, if you're one of those companies, you still need people to run. You can't be a CEO that just has bots doing everything for you. You need people to get things done. You need people to exercise judgment and make decisions. And you have people who depend on you. And no matter how cutthroat you are as a business person, I guarantee you care about the people that work for you. So people don't need to worry about losing their job. What they need to do is advocate for themselves. If the company isn't actively trying to upskill you and train you, advocate for yourself. Try to upskill yourself. Learn how this stuff works and demonstrate value. Because ultimately, that's how the economy works, right? You demonstrate value.
Right. And that's the thing, right, that I think is really going to be the crux of our conversation today is the fact that it is about transforming our workforce, re-educating them. This is something we didn't do back in the 80s when we were let's take all of our manufacturing out of the country, and that definitely impacted New York State a lot. And we didn't re-educate our workforce at that time to be able to flex and to go into a different industry if needed. And now, especially in New York State, there are so many opportunities for that re-education to take place for even the adult class of workers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So New York State's uniquely postured to be very, very profitable and just have a great outcome with this industry. You already have a great potential workforce. You have a great existing workforce. You have all the educations of higher learning that are leaders in all of this technology. You've got some of the leading companies. All of the ingredients are here for everyone to be very successful. But you're right. It's kind of like we were talking about before the show started, some of the education system lagging behind the requirements of the emerging workforce. So like, I remember when they stopped teaching cursive in the classrooms, and a lot of my friends, and I'm not that old, I'm in my 40s, a lot of my friends were just astounded that we could stop teaching cursive. I said, well, if you only have 7 educational hours a day in there, is cursive what they need to know when they're doing most of their work digitally? Right. It's like something's got to give. Yes. So we have a curriculum that's been established for a long time, and we have great educators, and we have a great, state commission that validates all these standards. But like I'm a high school teacher. I have students who are talking about, pre-calculus and American AP US history, all great classes. I support like knowledge in all forms, but do they need that to be successful in what they're doing? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Pre-calculus might not be a necessary ingredient. I tell my own kids who do fairly well in school, in high school and college, know addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and you'll be fine as an adult. Just know those very well. So maybe we need to rethink some of this stuff because we have a lot of these great fringe programs that we bolt on, like the thing that IGNITEU does with Redemption Christian Academy, where we explore all these little peripheral topics and advanced technology topics that could build them careers, but they don't get to dive deep. And maybe it would be better if we gave them tracks earlier on in life where they could dive deep instead of having like these core classes that they have to get through. When it comes to the adult workforce, as somebody whose mom graduated from college when I was graduating high school, yeah, it's never too late to learn. Both my parents are actually still in like adult education classes at NC State University in North Carolina. Always learn. But this is a great opportunity to upskill. And we have all of the resources here in the state of New York to do that, to be a valuable part of an emerging workforce that deals with AI or leverages it.
I think you made a number of very good points in what you just said. And one of the things I just want to say is that's amazing that your parents are still like, I want to learn more and more. That's great. I hope personally for myself that I never stop wanting to learn. I think that's an important thing that keeps us going in life. But additionally, what you talked about was potentially setting up different tracks for our high school, middle school kind of students and getting them involved in these tertiary things that maybe aren't core classes, but are going to be core elements to their workforce life. Mm-hmm. What kinds of, tracks would you imagine for that right now?
That's a great question. So like I teach at Albany High School right now, and I think the CTE program there is actually really exceptional. I think it's the best in the region. BOCES is great as well. I'm a big fan of BOCES, but there's a number of different tracks. And right now, the ones that are really successful at Albany are still traditional. It's still like healthcare, cosmetology, automotive tech. Okay, like yes, that's all good. But I think you could have great tracks when it comes to cybersecurity, information technology beyond what we normally imagine it as, including like the quantum piece. I think one place that New York could do a really great job is in integrated circuit design. We do have some fabrication capability here between NY Creates, Global Foundries, stuff like that. All great options for careers. But one place where the semiconductor industry is lagging behind is in design of the chips. Because the more we do with these, and now we're on the verge of being able to do like 3D, like stacked chips with multiple functions. If we taught kids what was on the verge of possible right now, and they became familiar with it as teenagers, well, boy, even if they don't go to MIT, HVCC, I think, is the best community college in the country. I've seen a lot of them, and it's my favorite. And it has a lot of great tracks, and it's something that they could very easily develop, and it would be a great route. And if then, like, they have great pathways that from HVCC where they go into RPI, SUNY Albany, in these technical fields. It's something we could easily build out for semiconductor design. That's one place where the world as a whole has a gap.
Yeah, I would say that there are a number of community colleges across New York State that are really wonderful. HVCC.
MVCC is great too. Yeah.
You know, you have Herkimer Community College. They're such wonderful options. And I know that even on the west side, between Syracuse and Buffalo, Rochester area, the community colleges over in that area are also aligning with workforce development.
Yeah.
Like battery manufacturing and other advanced technologies as well. So yes, finding routes with education that maybe aren't what we've kind of been told over the last 20 years, which is go get that 4-year degree, go at this most expensive school possible and do this, find a career that way because it's going to be the best opportunity with the best connections.
Yeah.
We're really seeing a shift where the best opportunities and the best, chances of substance in your career in the future is actually at these schools that are either state schools or community colleges, because they are actually on track with and aligned with, what is coming to the workforce in the near future.
Yes.
Currently now.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've heard people beating the drum about like trade schools for a long time, and how important the trades will be. And they already are important. I know, like, whenever anything breaks in my house, boy, it's really hard to get somebody, and they're going to make you pay for it because they're in high demand. Yes. An upcoming trade that we will be dealing with are people who can deal with these kind of communication circuits, whether it's dealing with artificial intelligence, which is our primary focus, but also we talked about quantum a little bit. If you want to set up like a quantum information system, there's lots of tests that have to be done beforehand to ensure that you can, if you're doing a trapped ion system, that you can set up the experiment properly. You need to know how to work all this equipment. Not everybody does. And not everybody has the ability to be a grad student that's sucking up $250,000 of debt to learn how to do such a thing. But the skill is not hard to teach.
Right.
The math is hard, but setting up the experiment is not hard. And we need those people. So yes, there's a great opportunity for community colleges and trade schools to step into that void.
Yeah. And it's really exciting to see the way that the New York school system is really stepping into that.
It is. I mean, since I moved up here, I am not a native of New York. I had been in North Carolina forever. And when I moved up here and I got to know the BOCES system, I was really impressed with it. I think it's a great model that other states could follow. But it's also a vehicle for us to take on some of these more high-skilled things. And they've already taken steps on some of that. Like, BOCES is not just like wood shop and auto. Like, they've taken on so many more things. And this is a great opportunity maybe to put this into the curriculum with them and to help our community colleges position themselves to create the workforce we need for a more robust AI ecosystem and potentially a quantum ecosystem moving forward. Because AI will enable that as well. It'll speed it all up.
Yeah. And, I fully agree with you that BOCES is such a wonderful program here. You see so much in terms of success and what in terms of getting that translation into the workforce. What it shows is that students are physical learners. They want to be doing the work. And that is clearly one of the best ways to teach everyone. Everyone benefits from that style of learning.
Agreed. Honestly, and I am not as experienced of a high school educator as some of my peers, but I like to think that most of my time in the Army, I was essentially a professional teacher and problem solver. And that's what I did. I taught foreign armies how to do things. I taught foreign diplomats how to deal with certain problems. And so now dealing with high school students, when I look at a lot of the curriculum, you have a lot of great educators out there, but they are kind of put into a box. Like, this is the curriculum you have to follow. There is the head at your school of that curriculum, and there is a state entity that will tell you, this is the approved curriculum. Because like, I'm not against Common Core standards at all. Actually, like a lot of my super conservative friends hated Common Core. I thought it was actually on track in terms of like, if this is what you felt you needed to teach, these are good standards and this is a good methodology. But what if you need to teach something else? And if you need to teach it a different way? And like Albany High School actually does a really good job of stressing like variable means of educating. You got to meet the students where they're at. You got to teach them the way they need to be taught. But frankly, teachers only have so much energy and so much time in the day. And it's hard if you have a class of 25 to meet everyone exactly where they're at. I think as a default level, hands-on learning is always going to be superior to PowerPoint presentations. That's just a given.
Yeah. And in the adult workforce, you see the same thing. When you're training people, if you want them to really learn it, you're doing it, you're actually doing the action. You're not just showing them a slide and moving through the motions of that slide because it just doesn't connect. It doesn't click. People disengage. But when you are physically doing the thing, even if you're just clicking buttons with your mouse and your computer keyboard, it's doing the action that's reinforcing how to actually perform the act yourself.
Yeah. And nowadays, there's so many great opportunities online that are free of charge that you can exercise. I did some of it with Redemption Christian Academy. I've done some of it with my students. You can set up free accounts on like what I would do with my soldiers when I was doing the artificial intelligence work. Everyone creates an account for Amazon Web Services, and you can go in there, and Microsoft Azure has the same thing. Oracle probably has something similar too. I just haven't used it. But they have a whole learning database. And you can go through a progression of all these classes. And you set up a sandbox, and you do all the tools, and you build and you deploy cloud architecture, and you learn how it works. So while I would not, like if I was an employer, I would not pay me to do it. I'm not an expert. I'm at least conversant in it. So if I'm having to manage people who do it, I understand if they're actually doing what they're supposed to, if they're providing value or not. But these are things that we can easily do that don't have to cost any money. And it actually takes work off the teachers because the companies have already built it.
Yeah.
They want you to be proficient in their technology.
They do. And that is something that's really interesting too in terms of workforce development and education is, you know, we have these major industries crying out, we need a workforce, right? We have Micron coming in and it's saying, we need a workforce. So how can, you know, they be more a part of that process? Do you have any kind of ideas that you would like to share?
So, I mean, I've been in a couple of conferences recently. It's like NYSTEC. I'm one of the advisors to the Defense Advisory Committee there over at NY Creates, where it's a conglomerate of academics and companies, academic institutions and companies that all deal with microelectronics. And there's a number of hubs like this throughout the country. They have great symposiums on these things. Ultimately, what they all get right on those things is connecting industry with community college and college, where they even say it themselves at these conferences, all these people they bring onto the panels. We need to start catching people in middle school and develop a path that goes from middle school through high school into secondary education or to trade school. So like elementary school, you know what? 3 R's. Go for it. That's fine. Like that's absolutely necessary. You need people to be like numerate and literate from an early age. But once you get into middle school, people are competent enough and mature enough that if you actually treat them like that and you give them an opportunity to learn things hands-on, like you were saying, we have an opportunity to grow a workforce from the ground up. Now, since we advance exponentially technologically these days, it's hard to know where the workforce will exactly land in 20 years. But I can say for sure, we're still going to have data centers. We're still going to have clean rooms. And all of those take a lot of work to build and to maintain. Yeah. And if you just did those jobs, that's a lot of decent paying jobs. Because right now, the United States, you know, in all of our national security documents, we say we need this much computing power. We need this much data storage. But we can't build data centers and clean rooms fast enough because there's a limited workforce that can do it. Tower 3 is going up over there at NY Creates right now. That workforce probably has 10 jobs lined up after that, and they're going to move from place to place, a lot of them, and they're going to live in hotels, and they're going to build that site because nobody else can do it to standard.
Right. It is a very technical, niche way of either building or creating something, because having those clean rooms are extraordinarily specific.
Yes.
They have to be very dry, cold, and zero dust.
Well, and I guess when it comes back to the workforce stuff, especially with like the semi-skilled jobs, which is what, I mean, frankly, a lot of our young people are not going to be able to do like the highly technical jobs where they have to go through like a PhD program or something like that. So the semi-skilled jobs that you need to build and maintain data centers and clean rooms, they're not that exciting sometimes. And so one of the other things that we should be teaching, not to demoralize people, but managing expectations is a huge part of being a human with good mental health.
Yeah.
Managing expectations. If you have unrealistic expectations, you'll be constantly disappointed.
Yeah.
If you understand like, okay, this is a good job, it'll pay me well. I'm not going to be Taylor Swift, but it's going to give me a good life. If you have steeled yourself against that and you're like, all right, I don't have a different option that's better, this is a good option. It is a good option.
Yeah.
It really is. But if you go in there thinking like, oh man, I've always wanted to work in something high tech, and so I'm going to be like designing the chips of the future. It's like, no, you should have gone into the chip design track. If you don't have that route anymore, you can go work in the clean room. And yeah, it's not exciting, but it's necessary and it's good work. It's valuable work, and you can build a life off it.
And it's consistent.
It is.
Meaning, like, you're not necessarily traveling all over the place or, going wherever for work all the time. Like people who are building the data centers and clean rooms, they're traveling a bunch. If you work in one, then you have a very consistent lifestyle that you can live by.
And I think most people actually prefer consistency and like a commitment, consistency over adventure.
Erraticness.
As much as in their mind they might think adventure sounds cool. I was a little different in that regard. Like growing up in Illinois, is like from an early age, I was like Luke Skywalker, like I have to get out of here. Yeah. I have to go do something adventurous. But it's also like, hey, you know what? Careful what you wish for. Like adventures bring hardships of their own. So the consistency that comes with building the industry here in New York, if you already like New York, you can build a great life here and build the industry.
And it's so much different. I've had this conversation with other guests as well. These clean rooms are so much different than other manufacturing jobs.
Yes.
You are not going to walk out extraordinarily dirty, gross,
it's quite the opposite.
Covered in coal or whatever. Yeah. You're literally going to go in clean and maybe come out clean.
Yeah. So like my wife grew up in West Virginia, and so like that's the stereotypical like coal country.
Right.
And that was the best route for most of her classmates, just to get in the mine.
Right.
And yeah, you can build a good life working in the mine. It can also shorten your life working in the mine. If you're working in a clean room, yeah, it's as safe as it can be. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's clean.
Yeah.
Now, repetitive. Yeah, if you're the person who's maintaining a clean room, yes, it's repetitive. But I mean, honestly, quite frankly, a lot of jobs are. It's like when I would go talk in schools when I was doing the Army recruiting gig before I retired, and students would ask me, like, what's the worst part about being in the Army? And I'd say, well, the same thing about working anywhere. Sometimes you disagree with your boss and you think you know better, and it really, really angers you, but you just got to bite your tongue and do it. Yeah. That's part of being a human. It doesn't matter what job you take.
Yeah.
You could be in the Army, you could be in a clean room, you'd be running a podcast. Sometimes somebody's going to tell you what to do, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, even your guests, they just are like so demanding.
Yes, I am very demanding for sure.
So much. I offered you water and you were like, I'm fine.
Hydration is for the weak. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. Please hydrate.
Yes, please hydrate. And we've touched on it a little bit now, right, with the adult workforce and transitioning them into everything. And I kind of want to circle back a little bit to continue to have a conversation where we kind of I don't want to use slang terms here, but chill out people's fears around employment and everything and losing their jobs. I really want to talk about that a little bit more. You talked about how we really need the decision-making skills, the judgment capabilities, that humans have in order to actually have AI function. Can you talk about what that actually means?
Yeah. So this is where it's incumbent on leaders. Leaders need to actually lead in order to do this right, to manage the change properly, because rumors spread fast. When people hear that you're adopting a new platform, a new software system, something like that, they start hemming and hawing and worrying. Leaders need to be proactive in their discussions before they even get to that point where they're signing a contract. They need to actively engage their employees at all levels. So like the CEO doesn't need to necessarily talk to like one of the line workers about this, but their first line supervisor needs to understand what's going on and they need to communicate it to them. And it needs to be not, hey, this is what's happening. Don't worry, you're going to be fine. It's, hey, we want to get more efficient. I think you have these skills. These are your best strengths. We think this tool could help you do better. Could you tell us how it could help you? If you engage them in a conversation about it, it's much more productive. Like the divisions at Army Special Operations Command where I got to interact on that level with them would be like, hey, this is something where we already bought licenses for it. How could this help you? And I'd put like technologists in there with them to be like anthropologists, analyze their processes and be like, oh, here's how I can help you make your job easier, buy you time back. Then it was more collaborative. If I go into a council of colonels, as we call it, where it's like, yeah, generals make the decision ultimately, but the council of colonels really does everything in the military. So you're in there with a room of all these colonels and you have a slide deck and you tell them like, hey, we've invested this much in this. If we invest this much more, we can gain this much more in efficiencies. And they say like, yep, and they rubber stamp it. Then the workforce starts hearing like, oh, they're coming out with some kind of like machine learning thing. And that's probably going to take away like a lot of our jobs where it's like the stereotypical office space, like I take the papers from the customer to the engineer kind of thing, because we have a lot of those.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean the people aren't valuable. It just means I don't need you to carry the papers. I need you to make a judgment call on whether or not this is a good business decision and inform your boss so that they can make a decision. So if you involve them in a conversation early on, it becomes collaborative. Yeah. If they hear about it through the grapevine, it becomes more of an adversarial issue.
Yeah. And I would say, personally, my take is that there's a lot of fear-mongering online in terms of, the leaders and CEOs of these AI companies are coming out and they're like, we're going to help you major businesses cut major employment costs by, shredding your workforce essentially. And they're doing that largely because they want the hype around their product.
Yes.
They want their investors to be fully on board and to think and see an outcome to what they're investing.
Yes. So there's a lot of hype around it. And a lot of hyperbole about what they can actually deliver. So it's a very useful tool, and a lot of companies can do it very well. A lot of them have good platforms, good tools. They can help gain efficiencies. But the idea that they can upend the business model right now, not for most businesses. Now, if your business is something that has a very replicable process, maybe it can. But if it needs any degree of like decision-making or human judgment at any step in the chain, AI cannot upend your business. It can gain efficiencies, but it can't upend it. And a lot of companies will, especially like startups, they have to grind on this stuff. And so they make really bold claims. Sometimes they actually do have a really, I wouldn't say revolutionary product, but they have a really good product, really valuable. But they'll make a lot of outlandish claims because they need the marketing. Because they got to raise the capital. Yeah. If you're in venture A and you need to get to venture C, you need hype. Yeah. So that is kind of where it comes from. And so I can see why it might freak out employees a little bit. But at the end of the day, again, like even though people get freaked out by a lot of online conversations, so I don't want to act like the G7 Davos crowd is like who you should be listening to. Right. But them and the titans of industry kind of direct the way the industry goes and what is valued and what is compensated. And like Klaus Schwab, who runs the Davos group, he had a book that came out a few years back that I really liked called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And his claim, which I don't disagree with, is that we're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, the first one being the steam engine. Right. Every time we have an iteration like this, there's always this doom and gloom, like, that's it. Yeah. Humans no longer have a place. Horses have been replaced by steam engines, therefore humans have no place. Like, that sounds ridiculous when we think about it now.
Yeah.
But even think about it like, so when I was a teenager, we were one of the first households with the internet. Back when America Online first started mailing out its CDs. Yes. And we had the LANs, made the weird noises and all that.
Dial-up.
Oh, yeah. So we would dial into America Online when I was a young teenager, and people were already saying, like, oh, the internet, it's going to destroy the economy. It built a vastly huger economy than we could have ever imagined.
It really did.
So I understand why people freak out about it. Yes, there will be churn. Some people will lose jobs. But honestly, like, people lose jobs regardless of whether or not a new technology comes out. There's just, like, life happens.
Right. No, yeah. And I really like to, when I'm having conversations with people who are either peers, colleagues, friends about AI and the workforce and everything, I really like to hit home on how we have already been through these kinds of iterations in technology before.
Yeah.
But really, again, not to beat a dead horse, so to speak, since you brought up the horse situation. But, that's why re-education to our workforce, changing how we're educating our youth, those are the critical aspects of continuing to develop a healthy workforce.
Yes. Economy. Yes.
Because realistically, we've already been through these kinds of changes before. Technology is at an incredible place right now, but that wouldn't have happened without manufacturing plants coming in and showing us that, we can replicate a task, right, through machinery. Yep. And everyone thought, no one's going to work in factories anymore. But really, those jobs just changed into something else. They just evolved.
Yeah.
They didn't necessarily go away. And that's where we're at right now. We're trying to evolve our workforce to meet the needs of our current technology.
I 100% agree. And I think everyone recognizes that technology is increasing exponentially. Like, we're in the Moore's Law continuum right now, but we're going to run into the edge of that soon. And we've done a phenomenally better job than I thought we would in terms of new materials, new processes to actually keep ahead of Moore's Law enough. But right now, if you go over to NY Creates and you're making 2 nanometer chips, like, you can't really get much smaller without breaking the bounds of everything we know as humans. Literally. I mean, it's already like 40 years ago, we couldn't have imagined being able to do what we're doing now. Yeah. And, it's like, have you ever been to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum?
In DC.
In DC?
I actually haven't. It was closed when I was there.
Oh, that's too bad. So, like, I used to have to go to DC for 1 week a month, and I would always start with like running a lap around the National Mall with like the Hamilton soundtrack on to like just get myself inspired. And then after work, the first day, I would go to the Air and Space Museum, and I would go straight to this place where on the floor, there's this calendar, and it lays out the history of the universe. So it starts from January 1st, and it goes to December 31st. And you see the evolution of the universe over time as we understand it. Right. Which, I mean, I'm fairly confident in the science. We're not 100%, but I'm pretty confident. Yeah. Humans show up at like 11:47 p.m. on December 31st. We haven't been a part of this universe for that long. Wow. So to see how much we've done in the last 20 years, 100 years, it's absolutely amazing. So when it comes back to education, the idea that we could educate kids with the same kind of system as we did 100 years ago and expect that we're building a workforce. No, you're building an educated human being, and that's inherently good. But if you want them to have a job where they're not just like, okay, I'll be in the service industry because I have to, because there's nothing else, we need to start addressing that. And we need to be more adaptable. Yeah. So right now, we have very strong educators who build very good curricula that teach people how to be critical thinkers and good human beings, but it's not going to get them jobs. Right. And it's not going to serve the economy of the future. So yes, absolutely, they need to be critical thinkers, but maybe our math and science curriculum needs to be rethought a little bit. Albany has a really good set of courses in like pre-engineering where people learn how to build robots, stuff like that. Like I'm actually going to start a robotics class next year for the junior ROTC to go compete nationally. Because at the end of the day, it's not so much that you're able to build robots. It's the idea that like, I understand the basics of programming, the basics of circuitry, the basics of mechanical components, because the machine won't do that for you anytime in the near future.
No. That is another thing that I love to hit home on with people is the fact that I understand you're afraid of, these technologies coming in, but how can it run if it can't even be built? Somebody has to build it. Somebody has to put it together. Somebody has to make sure that it continues to function and operate as it should.
Yes.
And that is a job. That's a task. So it's just how our workforce is changing and shifting and the needs that are coming in. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that it's not a challenge, especially for adults in the workforce right now. I'm sure that there are many challenges that are coming with that because of how quickly technology has changed and evolved just in the last 20 years, like you said. I'm sure that it's very weird and it's like, how do I navigate this? But that's why you should be talking to your community leaders, go to your innovation spaces, see what kind of opportunities are available to you because these institutions, you don't need to go and get a 4-year degree. Maybe you already have a 4-year degree, but now you're like, well, my degree isn't necessarily something that is in existence right now in terms of careers and workforce. How do I adapt now? Okay, I'm going to go back to my institution and see if they have any other kinds of programs, certifications, or anything that are offered that I can use to reshape what I'm doing.
That's a great point. So certifications is something I hype on a lot, where it's like, I always stress to my students, my kids, my nieces and nephews, if you have a plan and it involves this 4-year college and you know how you're going to pay for it, absolutely execute. Like my daughter's at Fordham right now. I mean, like she had a plan, she's executing it. Cool. If you don't have a plan, certifications are a great way to do things. So like one guy that worked for me on the AI division, he had been an enlisted infantryman and he was just a technology enthusiast. So he was not like an Ivy League officer. And because he was a technology enthusiast, he just used those free online resources from Amazon and taught himself how to use all their web products. And over time, over the course of a few years, it cost him about $3,500. And I think the Army paid for it to take all the tests, but the training was free. Yeah. He became a certified cloud solutions architect. And then when he was leaving the Army, he went to interview with Amazon. And the way they do interviews is not like a question and answer. They give you a problem. And they're like, come back in 72 hours with your best solution. He came back and they're like, we'll pay you $330,000 a year. And then they got outbid by a cybersecurity company who was going to give him $350,000 a year. And this is a guy who was just like, he's an enlisted infantryman.
Yeah.
Makes a lot more than I do.
Oh my God.
So certifications, like don't sleep on them. Like they're out there and it takes time. Yes. And if you don't have the aptitude for it, that's not going to work for you. If you don't love it at all and you're miserable, it's probably not a good solution. But if you give it a try, like training's free and you might find you really like it. And so these are good things that we can do in the high schools, in BOCES, in community colleges. Now, even a cloud solutions architect may become obsolete in 10 or 20 years with our advancements in software. Like we talked about before, like advancements in hardware, ultimately that relies on humans. Yeah. Building things needs humans. You cannot make a good enough assembly line with enough automated workers to do this stuff. So you need humans for that. Software though, yes, we advance very quickly. But again, like we said before, there's still the need for decision-making and judgment in there. Yeah. If you lose the decision-making and judgment, if you short-circuit that part, that's where you run into trouble.
Yeah. And even like say, cloud architecture 10, 20 years from now might not be the same as what it is today. You've just taught yourself technological skills that are highly advanced.
Well, and how many jobs are the same 20 years later as they were before? Like everyone in my family other than me are accountants. They're all accountants. Like my dad, my brother, they're all accountants. Or they tried to be high school teachers and they failed at that and became accountants. Everyone ends up becoming an accountant. So my 17-year-old, she planned on being an accountant, but then she thought AI was going to outsource the job. So now she's looking at becoming a dermatologist because healthcare probably won't be outsourced.
No.
So, and it's only a growth industry.
Yes.
But yeah, so like the way that my dad did accounting in 1975, probably vastly different than he did in 1995. And that was probably even more vastly different than he did it in 2015 when he was getting ready to retire, you know?
Absolutely. Those 3 years that you just listed, 1975, 1995 to 2015, those are vastly different advancements in technology and what you have access to, even as an accountant.
I mean, when we were watching the Artemis return in my house, I love to remind my kids that when we went to the moon, and yes, we did go to the moon. It's real. It's not fake. They didn't film that. That's real. I will stake my flag on that. They did it with slide rules and doing math by hand. Like I love that Hidden Figures movie. It's so good. So we know the science of it, but the methods in which we actually leverage it, they do change. They do evolve. But the science behind it, the math, it's fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
Except for quantum.
Quantum, the fun side of it.
The fun side of it.
Right now.
The bizarre side. It's something else.
Gosh, it really is. But we actually have so many quantum hubs in New York State.
So we have lots of quantum activity. One of the things I was working on just last year was trying to really establish this area as like a quantum center of excellence that the government recognized. We've still got a long way to go on that. I haven't really done much work on that since the school year started, but we have all the ingredients here. Yeah. Everything is here for us to be a leader in quantum. And in some ways we still are a leader in quantum because we have this natural advantage, but there hasn't been like a true like strategy behind it. Like the state intends to do things, they say things, and that's all welcome. The local government says things and they want to do things. RPI has, lots of good press releases about their quantum computer, and they have a lot of great students and a couple of great professors that do this stuff. But we are short of our potential by a lot. We could really be the global leader on it if it was a concerted effort where we were all giving way together.
So if I was a young person, what kind of advice would you give me if I wanted to get into quantum?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say for one thing, like the fundamental thing, don't be intimidated by it. I think that's what scares a lot of people off, whether it's AI, quantum, anything like that. They think that if they aren't the best math student, that somehow they're not worthy of participating in the space. And that's just not the case. Yes, you need to know the math if you want to advance the technology. But if you want to leverage the technology where it's at, you don't need the math. You need to learn the hardware and you need to learn the processes. And you could be a mediocre student and still do that and still potentially come out with a great breakthrough in terms of processes or how we do business. And on top of that, when you get into any kind of vertical in industry, even if you are not, sometimes it's best to not be the smartest in the space. You want to be the curious person who's willing to do work. You get into that vertical. In this case, if we wanted to call quantum its own vertical instead of like just IT broadly with like AI and everything else, if you wanted to get into quantum, you get in at the base level, you become familiar with it. And even if you're a mediocre student, as you become more and more familiar with it, you still become part of the ecosystem and you can build a career there and you can keep evolving and you can keep upskilling yourself and you can keep finding a place where maybe that really smart person that was trying to find the leapfrog technology that may or may not ever happen, like, oh, I'm going to develop a diamond etched chip that's going to have quantum memory. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But the person who takes the technology that already exists and adapts it and builds a business off it, they're going to be just fine.
Lieutenant Colonel Michael Hutchinson. What a great full name you've got there. Not a tongue twister.
Many syllables.
Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. It's been really fun for me. I've actually really loved our conversation. It's been super engaging. If anybody was curious about maybe reaching out or contacting you about anything, where could they find you?
I guess the best way, because I always like to hype up Albany High School, best educational opportunity in the capital region. I'm at mhutchinson, HUTCHINSON, at albany.k12.ny.us.
Thank you again for joining us for another episode of the IGNITEU New York podcast powered by NYSTEC. I'm your host, Shay Brown. If you like what you heard, make sure to give us a follow, like, and share. We'll see you next time. Bye.